What's good, YouTube Eagles fans, man? It's your boy Flash Speaks back, man. Another video. Listen, it was a good win yesterday against the Bucs. I'm saying it because every win is good. At the end of the day, what you're doing in the regular season is you're setting up yourself for playoff positioning. When playoff positioning time comes, they don't ask how, but how many. In other words, you're not going to be the first seed or second seed based on how beautiful your wins look. You will be first seed based on the fact you won the most games. You will be second seed, you won the second most, third seed, so on and so forth. So, from that standpoint, listen, Eagle Nation, nothing to worry about. We should be happy that we got a win. Period, point blank. Now, without a doubt, it wasn't perfect, man, and there are things that need to be cleaned up. I'm just trying to help us get the proper perspective on this whole thing, man. You're talking about week 4 of a 17 or 18 game season with 17 games, and you're talking about 13 more games to go. Okay, we ain't got to do anything other than look back to last season and how it all shaped up. Last season, when we won the Super Bowl, guess where we were at after 4 weeks? 2-2. Went to Tampa Bay, got spanked. Okay, got spanked by the Bucs. Lost a close one to the Falcons. We were dealing with a number of injuries to key players. All those different things. At that time, people felt like Eagles were not contenders. Defense was looking horrible at the time. Besides that game against the Saints, we really didn't put anything in. And I'm saying this is the perspective we need to have. Right now, as defending champs, the NFL threw a crazy schedule at us. Like, they's talking about the Giants had a tougher schedule. Bro, how? How? You know what I mean? I guess it's because the Giants play us versus we play them. That's the only thing they're saying. But we're playing literally every single team that was in the playoffs last year. So far, every team we already played, besides Dallas bum ass, were in the playoffs. Rams, Chiefs. See what the Chiefs just did to Baltimore, right? And then yesterday, the Bucs, the team that, a lot of Eagles fans were afraid of, went out there and handled business. There is A.J. Brown we got to talk about, so on, and there's different reactions according to the Eagles. Now, to me, the best perspective I heard from all of the different Eagle players who spoke on the game was Jordan Mailata's. And I love Mailata's energy, man. Mailata, you got to understand, is a guy that didn't even know he would be in this position. He wasn't at 10, 11 years old, somewhere dominating football thinking he was going to be here. He was believing he was going to be a rugby player, and for reasons he had to make a shift. So he coming from like a different culture, you know what I mean? He's Samoan by way of Australia, and I think a lot of that factors into his way of thinking, his coming up and all of that. He's very positive, man. He's looking at it like, bro, we had trouble going down the Bucs, and then we went down there and beat them. Sure, there's things to clean up. It is what it is, man. But like, we're looking at it like one game at a time. And I really believe and I hope that that's the overall look. Though the players, I understand, are not going to be completely satisfied, and that's fine. And if the displeasure is with the overall performance, we're good. The problem comes in here with honestly, we got to get straight to it. A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown puts out a tweet yesterday, and the tweet, a little cryptic tweet, where he's saying, he quotes one of the Psalms or whatever. Like, if you're not listening to someone, don't make a scene, withdraw, something like that. I can't remember verbatim, man. But it's something like that. And the problem with it is the statement in and of itself may not be a big deal, him quoting that. But now, all throughout, Eagles television, all throughout Eagles radio, WIP, as well as now on these morning shows I just watched Get Up, they talking about it, man. They're talking about it. And This is the problem, and this is the thing that I wish AJ Brown would realize and understand, man. Like, you know, you're bringing attention to the team that is not beneficial to the team. You know, you bring attention to the team that's not beneficial to the team, and it looks like it's a personal thing. It doesn't look like it's for the overall performance of the team. And if it is the thing where it's not personal and not coming through the way of selfishness, then you should make that clear. But I'm explaining why it looks like it's selfishness, man. The way it looks is you got a team that hasn't lost, 4-0, 17 out of the last 18 games, or 18 out of the last 19, whatever the number is, and you got a player that's complaining about not getting the ball and things like that in the midst of the winning. In the midst of the winning. And it looks like it's a complaint about his numbers. Why? Because you look at last week. We get last week, which was arguably an even tougher game. It was an even tougher game than this week. This week was more so you had the lead and you started to get walked down, which though is problematic, it's, I would say it was less stressful than the Ram game. The Ram game had to come down to, you know, blocking 2 field goals, okay, after being down, 19 points, okay? A.J. Brown played a big integral part in the comeback, and you ain't hear a peep out of him. You ain't hear a peep out of A.J. Brown. This week, Eagles win, actually get off to a nice start. And the Eagles are starting to get walked down, find a way to survive. A.J. Brown numbers are small. And now you get the tweet. This is why we can only conclude A.J. Brown, Arthur Juan Brown is a selfish motherfucking player. And team sports might not really be his thing. Maybe he should have been a boxer. Maybe he should have been like a tennis player or something like that, because then those are sports where you get all the glory, just all of you. If like it ain't a situation where you can win as a result of teammates or helping teammates and not necessarily getting the numbers yourself. And that's the thing. Now, to his credit, I believe he knows he's selfish, and I believe he's trying to work on it. And listen, man, ego, hubris, seeing yourself as an individual as opposed to being a part of a collective whole is just part of the human condition. Every human being has to fight it in some way, shape, form. Whether it's at your job, whether you are part of team sports, whether you just living in life, man. Whether you at your church, at your masjid, at your synagogue, or wherever it is, and you're trying to build a relationship with God. A big part of what you got to do is you have to learn how to not see yourself as separate from God, right? You got to kind of see yourself as a big part of what's happening here, part of nature, part of everything. It's ego and hubris where you see yourself as an individual, right? This is a big problem in what you call alchemy and spirituality, okay? So I get it. I'm not here to vilify A.J. Brown at all right? Because I see him trying to find answers and solutions. He goes to this book about inner excellence. He's like, he's going to now the Psalms and stuff like that. That's the right idea. You should try to go to a higher power to understand the purpose of life and the purpose of things. That oftentimes, I believe, is the way to deal with inner demons, for lack of a better word, or inner struggles, right? He's struggling with it, and I respect that struggle. But he just has to be careful, man, with what these things can lead to, because now you got trade talks. You got people talking about, should we get, will he be here next year? And that's the evil that can come about when he doesn't take into consideration, the implications of his actions. And that's like what I'm not really liking, man. Make no mistake, I don't want to see AJ Brown traded at all. For my money, to me, He's the best wide receiver in the league. I don't think there is one better. Now, there are guys who may do certain things better, like route running. Like, a lot of people make a big deal about that. And, you know, and Jamar Chase better route runner. Okay, well, Jamar Chase needs route running because he don't have the ability to muscle his opponents and catch stuff like that, right? AJ Brown don't need all of that to get open. Like, remember, let's always go back to the purpose of things. Let's go back to the purpose of things. The purpose of a route is that it serves the purpose of getting a wide receiver open, helping him win at the line of scrimmage and get open so that way he's a target for the quarterback. Some wide receivers need all that to get open. Others don't, right? So, that isn't like my determining factor, okay? But whatever. You don't believe he's the best. You looking at numbers. I don't look at numbers. I gotta look at how much you're targeted versus the numbers. I gotta look at the offensive system you're in. I can look at if you're a run heavy team versus a pass heavy team. These are the things I'm looking at when determining it. And I believe Pro Football Focus were the best at it because they talk about how AJ Brown is the best, at 50-50 balls and things like that. Okay, that's one argument. Now, the other thing about me, bro, and I know this is bad, but I'm speaking as an Eagles fan. The only thing I literally care about is winning Lombardi trophies. For me, that's the only bragging rights as a fan that you have. It's the only thing that brings true happiness as a fan, meaning at the end of the year where you're really happy. The only thing that does that is Lombardis. That's it. Winning the Super Bowl. Other than that, at the end of the year, you're sad at a certain point. That's not to say it's not fun watching games week to week. That's not to say it's not fun watching Saquon jump backwards over somebody or watching A.J. Brown just catch the ball, knock somebody down, run over them. That's not to say all those things don't bring you some happiness. But ultimately, at the end of that season, if you do not win a Lombardi, you're not happy, okay? Saying that to say, I don't care about whether or not my quarterback is given MVP awards. That I don't brag about that. Yeah, Jalen Hurts MVP. I don't really. If he gets it, good. Those are like the sprinkles that you put. That's like the whipped cream on top of the ice cream sundae, right? The ice cream is the Lombardi. Sprinkles and caramel and all of that is all the extra stuff. Ain't nobody gonna just eat whipped cream unless you got some weirdos that do that. Or just drink caramel or all of that without the ice cream. Nobody want that, right? So that's what MVPs is. That shit is just caramel. If my running back breaks the all-time rushing record and all of that, that's just sprinkles on top of the ice cream to me. If my wide receiver gets the triple crown, he has led the league in catches, led the league in touchdowns, led the league in yards and all of that kind of stuff. That's just throwing a little bit of cookie crumbles on the ice cream or whatever. That's all that is for me. All I care about is Lombardi. So as a fan, of course, I'm going to see a player that's acting the way AJ is acting and all of that, if it's about his personal numbers, as being selfish, right? But I, at the same time, recognize how great he is, and I know for the Eagles to be as potent and to get to where they need to get, you need A.J. Brown, or at least someone who can do what A.J. Brown does on the team. Right, so I'm not with trading them unless I'm getting somebody that's equally as good. But really, I don't want to trade him, because I like him as a player a lot. Right? But this is also the other elephant in the room, and this is the other possibility, is that A.J. Brown may not really be complaining just about his numbers. It could be that he's not happy with the team being overall as great. And I think this was best illustrated in what Jalen Hurts has said in his post game. Jalen Hurts in his post game was saying we gotta learn to not being comfortable with just being good. Right? And try to be great. He also said last week that we need to stop playing not to lose and stuff like that. And trust me, if you want to understand these things, I'm your boy. I'm your guy, man. Like, I know I ain't got the most elaborate channel. I ain't got the best branding, which I am going to work on when I get some extra time to make sure everything's all this green shit in the back and branding and all these beautiful things and beautiful clips for you to catch. I'm gonna try to get there. Okay, like I'm gonna try to get there. All right. Um, but I know the Eagles, man. I've been watching this team since Vermeil, man. I was a little boy watching Vermeil, man. I remember Buddy Ryan coming in this joint. I remember Kotite, of course, right? I remember Ray Rose years, man. All that stuff, man. I know this team back and forth from Bremen to Lurie, okay? And I'm telling you what's happening here. It's a disconnect between Nick Sirianni and his philosophy of winning and Hurts, AJ Brown, and some of the players. They got some guys that's on board, like the Jordan Malatas. This dude just happy, man. Be here, getting his money, whatever. You got Lane Johnson, who probably got his opinions, but he gonna ride, like with leadership. That's just what he is. He got a militarist mindset, meaning, he just follow protocol. This is how Kelsey, this is how most of them guys is. But you got a couple guys in there with opinions. I believe AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, they're one of them, and one of them is this. Even though the Eagles win way more than they lose, they're winning games in ways that that are analytics driven. Okay, number one, and also that could lead to losing if everything don't go perfectly. Like it was kind of summed up actually yesterday in that final play where the Eagles got the running the clock out using Saquon, and that wasn't really working. We didn't get the first down, so on fourth down, you got 6 seconds left, and instead of like punting the ball, he takes and he has one of the players just run out of the end zone, and you're kind of lucky he didn't get caught, because if he gets caught, then the Rams are at the one, right? So he went and he takes a safety just because that just secures the win and it runs the clock out, right? That kind of encapsulates Nick Sirianni's thinking, and where I think Nick Sirianni and some of the better players are differing. They're differing, okay? And it goes back to 2023, where there were a lot of games lost by the Eagles. After the Eagles would get up, they would get up, right? Get up, get some points, open up the offense, do all these great things. Once they have a lead, then what they do is they shift the strategy to now just trying to run the clock out and let's not make any mistakes at all, and let's just run the clock out to just try to get out of there. And it's almost if we're just up 14, we think this is a good strategy. And I know Jalen Hurts and I feel like it's probably AJ Brown and all of them are having an issue with that. I really believe this is what's happening. Okay? I don't believe it's AJ Brown has a problem with Jalen Hurts, though it could look that way yesterday. Why? Because when we got into that second half, AJ Brown can't say he wasn't targeted. He was targeted about 9 times. Ended up with 2 catches. Sometimes, you got to be real about that. The Bucs just played way better defense than we played offense in that second half. Period. That second half was atrocious in terms of offense, and these are the things that they got to kind of work out. But it isn't like they didn't try. There were actually drives where the Eagles abandoned the run completely and went passing 3 times and got a 3 and out because he just couldn't complete a ball. There was problems with Todd Bowles' blitzing schemes that they were having. Again, there was problems with AJ Brown getting open in time. Okay. Now listen. It could be certain plays that AJ Brown wants that he thinks would work against these things that the Eagles may not be calling It could be a number of things. I don't know. When you talk about when you're like unlistened to or when you're ignored, maybe he has tried to talk to the OC. Maybe he has tried to talk to the coach, and maybe they're not listening. Okay, that could be part of his frustration as well. That's what that might imply. That's what that might imply. I don't know. I don't quite know what it is, but but I would just prefer AJ Brown. The only thing I'm saying, I would prefer that he did not publicize these things simply because it leads to other problems. It leads to other problems. I don't like all this talk and speculation about whether or not he wants to be traded and all of that, and if he has to be traded. Because honestly, if we go down that route, if AJ Brown really wants to go to another team, he's a fool. He's a damn fool. Like, who in the world, wants to go to another team and a team that's not winning, like the Eagles have won the Super Bowl, in order to just get numbers? Like, but I don't know. You never know the mentality of people, man. Some guys are weird like that. Maybe he's happier when he's just out there destroying corners because, like, you got to be real. We won the Super Bowl, and he said, really, what does it for him is really dominating cornerbacks. Really, the Super Bowl might not be as joyous to him as dominating cornerbacks, which I think is crazy. Which I think is crazy. Though at the same time, I should say there should be a way to kind of get both done. But if that's the case, I don't know what to say. I don't know what you do with that. I don't know what you do with that. I'm trying not to think that's what it is because that's foolish. Because that would imply AJ Brown wouldn't mind being on a team that isn't winning as much, so long as he's getting a bunch of passes. So long as he's getting a bunch of passes and he's getting MVP trophies or Player of the Year awards, and maybe those are the things he wants. And if so, I don't know what the Eagles should do. But I think they should sit down and talk to him. What do you really want, Juan? Or do as Teddy Bruschi said. I like that as well. Teddy Bruschi said, hey, look, man, when you have great players like that, sometimes you just let them pout. And then when you get to a game where you need them, you go to them. And you know what? I think that's actually AJ. I think that's Jalen Hurts' way of looking at it. You know, I think Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are still friends, right? Probably not as close as before, but I see them as like how you could be in a marriage. Man, you could be in a marriage, and this can go either way, man or women, right? But I'm a man, so I can relate to that side more so. And you have a wife that's just acting up because it might be that time of the month where she's just snapping out, going through some things like that. And as a man, you kind of just ignore it. Like if you're a wise man, you just ignore it, let her just go through a little period that she's going through, okay? Because later down the line, this will pass, and later down the line, you'll be able to get what you want or whatever. Y'all go ahead about your business. That's the way I think he deals with AJ Brown. I think he just lets AJ Brown, okay, this is him. Let him go through his little whatever. Don't even say nothing to him. Don't try to get him to see it your way. Because Hurts probably sees it as, we just need to win. I don't care about my numbers, none of that. AJ Brown doesn't see it that way. So Hurts probably just ignores him, lets him just go through whatever he's going to go through. And it just does what he does. That's probably the way he deals with him. And I could dig that. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, man. What I say, good win by the Eagles. But there's some things we definitely got to clean up. We got to somehow figure out a way to get this running game going. I don't know if teams have just kind of figured out our running schemes. Mike Quick was saying something to the effect of every time they pull Dickerson, the linebackers on the opposite team know to rush the hole where Dickerson will be. So I think that's part of the problem. I think the other part of the problem is Dickerson is not 100%. Probably not moving with the same type of explosiveness as he may have last year. I'm starting to admit maybe Mekhi Becton being gone is affecting things a little bit as well. And overall, the Eagles just need to be a little bit more creative. It makes no sense in the world that you can't get off with Saquon Barkley, who I still believe is the most talented running back in the league. Makes no sense. And then as far as the passing game, what are you going to do? It's another offensive coordinator. Every damn year we have a successful season. Some team wants our freaking coordinators to make them a head coach. And then the Eagles either gotta hire someone from without, raise someone up from within. And what happens is they probably have a system that may need to be scratched in total. The problem you run with going with a whole completely different system, bringing in a guy, say a Shanahan or a guy like that, is now Jalen Hurts has to learn a whole new system instead of just refining what he already has. Right, so these are challenges that we're kind of facing all the time, and I think AJ Brown should kind of understand that way better than I would, and I'm sure he does. You know, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? You can't really. The problem is, as long as you have a head coach that can't call plays or design plays well, this is going to always be the challenge with the Eagles. So we win because of the greatness of the roster, the greatness of the GM, and the coach's ability, I think, to get guys motivated, keep guys focused. I think he's really good at those things. But his weaknesses kind of show up on the field as well. But what do? You just get rid of Nick Sirianni in the midst of this? How do you bring in a play caller that isn't going to want to go be a head coach somewhere? What do? I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, man, that's all I got on this here, man. Good win, like I said, you know, but we got some things to clean up. And what's up, Eagle Nation? Salute and peace. I'm out.